Hello everybody, it is me, Jurassic Alt, here to say that today we're going to be talking about Tales from the Pizza Plex Drowning. I'm very excited to talk about this story. There's a lot here, and here are the timestamps for the video, and if you find this hidden photo in the video, please let me know down in the description and I will put your comment in the next video. So yeah, let's get started. So the story starts off with Kara and her friends going to the Mega Pizza Plex to check out this super popular attraction, which is a VR experience. Kara and her friends finally get into the VR experience after waiting in a really long line. The group decides that they're going to do Coastal City, but Kara doesn't want to do Coastal City. She wants to do the water park. So the group does Coastal City, and it was super realistic and super fun, and they did a lot of rides, but it was all over too quickly. So the group does another activity on the list. But Kara goes back and does Hypertime for the water park and sees that there are so many slides and pools everywhere and goes and plays around in the pools and slides. Then Kara sees a girl floating in the pool, but the girl disappears. Then she sees the girl again in another part of the resort. She tries to save the girl, but the ghostly girl grabs Kara and tries to drag her down into the pool, but Kara is able to get away. Then would constantly run into the ghost, and whenever Kara would be taking a break, the ghostly girl would get closer to her. But Kara was able to find a good hiding spot and fell asleep for a bit. And then she woke up and the ghostly girl was crawling towards her, saying, "Don't leave me." So she ran away to escape and went to a pirate-themed area, which she was able to escape by swinging on a rope and getting away again. She tries to find a way out of the Hypertime experience and finds an old house that seems strange. So she goes into the house to see that someone was living here with family photos and personal stuff. And Kara decides that maybe the way out of the VR experience is to help the ghostly girl. But the ghostly girl drags her down into the abyss. But somehow she is able to make it back up and decides that she needs to climb to the highest slide in the resort, and maybe that will lead her out. But on the way climbing up the slide, she slips and falls down on the ground, and the ghostly girl drags her to the bottom of the pool. The first thing that I want to mention is that the Fazbear employees are wearing pink and green shirt because it's in a black light area. Now, there's been two places that we've seen a kind of black light kind of ish area, that being the underground area and laser tag. So that's something that's interesting. Another thing, this might be a connection to the DLC kind of end scene where it shows this glitch trap shadow bunny kind of looking. So that might be a connection there. It's in a VR kind of experience and we have to go into a VR game to battle this thing, quite possibly. So something with getting into the VR thing, which I was just like going crazy, was the first thing I was going crazy about is that to get in the VR thing, you have to go through a blue laser light that scans your body and it uploads your body to the virtual world. I was just going crazy because could have been how they scanned Afton into the code of the games, of the Help Wanted game. And another thing, which was like my main thing, and then I remembered, wait a minute, Phineas talked about light theory and stuff like that certain lights can show agony, show it. And I reread it in book 3, they talk about Phineas. Now, Phineas talked about light, and guess what color? He said light blue. The laser was a blue. I think it was light blue too. So it's just tracked. So light blue might be actually transporting their personality into the VR world and telling how much agony a person has. Hey, this person has more agony. This is would be a better pick. So Vanny could collect the kids in the air quotes VR world and be like, oh, you have the most agony and you have the most agony. Here you go, Afton. Beat off of their agony. So Vanny could be doing VR killing, or could be like, hey, this is the actual kid who has the most agony. Go for them if they ever come. And when they had to get scanned by the blue laser, they had to step on that. In Help Wanted, for one of the endings, you had to follow a red X. Something that I kind of realized when I was reading this book was that the goop monsters that we see in Princess Quest might actually represent the goo babies that we see in Under Constructions. Now, these things don't really look like goop monsters, but this is the closest thing that we have to them. So this might be a connection there. it mentions that the Pizzaplex is short-staffed. Now, there is a duffel bag talking about that they're kind of needing employees and that they're short-staffed on some. So this might be something connecting there. It says that the scans of everybody is only kept for a day and it's deleted and cleared the next day, which is probably not true. They mentioned a lot of different themes in the water. They mentioned a beach one, which could be Pirate's Cove, a pirate one, which is probably Foxy, a donut shop and candy area, which is probably Chica, a space one, which is probably Fazzer Blast or Freddy in Space, an ice cream shop one, which is probably Bonnie Bowl / Baby, and a pizza themed one, which is probably kind of Freddy's, and a volcano one. Nothing really is connected with the volcano, so yeah. In the story, it mentions that Kara has flashbacks to when she was a young kid of her cousin Peggy, who fell off a tree and died. Now, it mentions that Peggy has black hair and pigtails, which is very similar to Cassidy. When Kara was in the VR experience, her friends were playing a game that had a bridge and jumping coin. Now, this game could have been Freddy's street game that we see in Freddy's room, so they could have been playing this game. Another thing, when Kara was in the VR experience, her friends asked Freddy employees to see if they can find her. They mentioned that there were a lot of missing kids and that they've been doing a lot of announcements on the intercom that there were missing kids. So something interesting there. It could be a reference to Vanny, because we do see that there are missing kids. So maybe we'll get a story on that. When Kara was in the kind of house, it mentioned that there was a lot of mirrors. Now, the only place that I can remember that there were kind of a lot of mirrors was in the underground area of the daycare. And that's the only place I can think of where there was a lot of mirrors. I mean, there could have been other places, but this is the only place that I can think of where there was, air quotes, a lot of mirrors. So now let's talk about Hypertime. Was this experience that you could do in the VR experience where everything would slow down or time around you would slow down. You would experience in the VR thing what seemed like an hour, but in reality was only 10 to 15 minutes. So for Hypertime, they had to train for 2 weeks to operate the Hypertime system. So that brings up the question, could Hypertime represent Afton's hell? Now, Cassidy could have, air quotes, Hypertime Afton into being a hell that seemed like went on forever. In Hypertime, you were able to feel stuff like it was actually physically there. Something that I want to mention is that I believe that Hypertime is the third version in the Mega Pizzaplex, because I believe Hypertime started out as in under construction, because in under construction, it was a giant snow globe looking thing that was an AR, which is augmented reality with a golden throne kind of looking chair. Then I think they made it smaller to be a smaller snow globe, which was insomnophobia, which would increase your senses and make you feel like we're there experiencing the history and made you better. And for Hypertime, you had a chair you had to sit in. So I believe that Hypertime has basically evolved into 3 different stages of an AR booth, a snow globe, and what we see as a VR chair. And I believe we have seen the Hypertime operation machine, because in this room with the puppet plush, we see all these servos and this machinery kind of stuff. I believe that this is where the Hypertime machine was at, or operated at least. And now to the main theory. So, my main theory, let's talk about this. I believe that the ghost girl is supposed to be Maya from Under Construction, because when Kara goes there, it mentions that there was photos in the house with a girl. Now, the second thing that it mentions is that there was a room with blood red and roses. Maya loved red and roses. It mentions it multiple times in the book. And the third thing is Maya has black hair and Ghost Girl has black hair as well. But what does this mean for the main game? Well, I believe that Maya from Under Construction and Drowning is supposed to represent Cassidy in Princess Quest, because in Drowning it mentions that Ghost Girl had different clothes from a different era. Now, Maya and Kara were probably at most 10 years apart from each other, but the same thing is with Cassidy, because Cassidy died in the 80s, not in the medieval time. So that would be a time difference thing right there. Another thing is, this is the only character that we have seen so far that has had their personality digitalized besides the mimic in these books. Thing I want to mention, in the Pizzaplex stories, it mentions that there's a castle. Now, a castle kind of represents medieval kind of stuff. Princess is kind of a medieval kind of thing too. So Princess Quest and castle kind of stuff seems similar. That might be a connection there, and there might be something that's starting to connect there, but it's just a side note thing I want to mention. Another thing I want to mention is that in the book, it says save the princess and finish the maze without dying. With Princess Quest, you have to, air quotes, save the princess. With surviving the maze, that could be representing Grim Foxy's corn maze. So it seems like Ghost Girl is supposed to represent Cassidy. But what does that mean for Kara? I believe that Kara is supposed to represent Vanessa. In the story, it mentioned that Kara had trauma with her cousin when she fell off the tree and died. And it seems like agony/trauma makes it easier that you're able to be controlled, which seems like what's happened to Vanessa. Carrie has trauma because her cousin died when she fell out of a tree, and she blames herself. Vanessa has trauma because she was dealing with a court case.
I'm talking about the custody battle between your mum and your dad. Your dad didn't play fair, did he? He used to make your mum look bad in court. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Do you want to talk about how that felt? I suppose I don't need you to tell me it felt bad to have a parent scare you into saying things that weren't true. He manipulated you. It wasn't your fault. It's really sad. But it's common for one parent to use their child to hurt the other parent. I know your mum after she lost the custody case.
I was supposed to be a good girl.
What happened to her had nothing to do with you, even though it was your testimony that did it. Was that testimony true?
So Cassidy might be taking advantage, which means Vanessa could have a split soul of one half is, air quotes, Vanessa/Afton, and one half is Cassidy. So then that brings up the question, why doesn't Cassidy fully take over? Well, I believe that Cassidy did try on another person and it didn't work. In the story, Kara goes up the slide and tries to escape. As she does that, the ghost girl becomes less ugly and looks more pretty. But when Ghost Girl gets hold of Kara and brings her to the bottom of the pool, Kara doesn't survive when she makes it out of the VR experience. Something I do want to side note, when Kara is being drugged to the bottom of the pool, reminds me of what we see in Ultimate Customite, when Old Man Consequences says that leave the demons to his demons, and Cassidy goes into the lake and drowns herself, and that's when the game crashed. That hit me when I was editing the script, so thought I'd just mention it. So it seems like Cassidy has tried to get out, but wasn't successful. But for the Vanny ending, you have to play 2 Princess Quest games and a third one to set Vanny free. I believe that we, air quotes, split up Cassidy's soul into 2 people, meaning that Vanessa has the bulk of Cassidy's soul, and Gregory kind of did the final little touch-up to make it that Cassidy was able to get out without killing Vanessa. But now let's talk about the timeline. So timeline-wise, it doesn't seem very clear when this takes place and generally, but I believe that drowning takes place in the Monty and Roxy kind of area because it doesn't really mention anything about storyteller or anything like that. So I think this is after everything's been, air quotes, built and changed to how it looks to be like in the new Mega Pizza. Thank you guys so much for watching. It means so much to me you took the time out of your day to watch this video. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm really proud of this theory video, and it may not be super organized. I'm so sorry if it's not, if it's confusing. I'm sorry. But guys, thank you guys so much for watching. It means so much to you that you took the time out of your day to watch this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and remember, cheese, broccoli, and falafel.